My name is Joni Liverant and I'm a licensed Israeli tour guide. We're standing outside of an ancient city known as Tel Sheva. This is located in the very northern part of the Negev, and it is just east of the modern city of Be'er Sheva. We're standing right next to a well. Wells played an important role in some of the stories of the patriarchs, the Avots in general, and near here in particular with Avraham and his son Yitzchak. But look around. We're in a desert. A desert, by definition, is a place with less than 200 millimeters of annual rainfall. Have you ever wondered from where was the water for all these wells? This ancient city has finds from the Cultic era, which was between the 5th and the 3rd millennium BCE. That predates the Avot who lived in the Bronze era by quite some time, and yet this is not the city where the Avot lived. Archaeologists believe that most probably they lived where the central bus station of modern Be'er Sheva is today. We don't have any archaeological finds from the Avot. There is no graffiti remains stating Avraham was here, because they were tent dwellers, so no material culture would be left behind. This well seen outside of the city is probably from the time of the 8th century BCE, the time of kings such as Chizkiyahu, when this was the most southern section of Mamlechet Yehuda, the Judean kingdom. This well is 70 meters deep. Obviously, it has been rebuilt since then. The latest doing so were the Ottomans, who were here until a century ago. This well is outside of the city walls. Who builds a water system outside of the walls? Well, when you're in a desert, water is more precious than gold. Marauding Bedouin tribes were known to burn down a town to get to their water supply. It was thought that it would be better to leave access to water outside of the town and build another water system inside. Again, where is all this water coming from? You see that there was even a trough built for the animals. Looking into this well, one could well imagine how difficult it must have been to build, especially in ancient times with ancient tools and methods. So we can understand the episode written in Chumash Bereshit, Genesis, with Avraham and Yitzchak, who went to such extents about the wells that they had dug. In chapter 21, it states that Avraham made a covenant with Elimelech, the king of Gerar. He gave him 7 sheep as payment for being a witness that Avraham had dug the wells which were stolen by the servants of Avimelech. Due to this oath, the city became known as Be'er Sheva, meaning the oath about the well. As it states in Pasuk Lamebet, Al Kain Kara Makom Hahu Be'er Sheva, Ki Sham Nishba'u. Therefore they named the place the Well of the Oath, because there they were sworn. Right next to this outdoor well is a tamarisk tree. Once Avimelech left Avraham after the agreement, the Torah states, Vayita Eshel Be'er Sheva, and he planted a tamarisk tree in Be'er Sheva. Planting a tamarisk tree was a symbolic gesture. Avraham was planting his roots here. In fact, the Torah states that Avraham remained in Be'er Sheva Yamim Rabim, many days. Rashi explains that Avraham spent the bulk of his days in Eretz Israel, in the city of Be'er Sheva. It was here that he received the commandment to sacrifice Yitzchak. The covenant with Avimelech didn't survive even one generation, as Yitzchak, his son, had to deal with the servants and shepherds of Avimelech. They had sealed the wells of Avraham, forcing Yitzchak's servants to redig them. Then each well that was redug was claimed by the servants of Avimelech. Finally, another covenant was signed, this time between Yitzchak and Avimelech. When the next well yielded water, it was again named like that of Avraham, as it states in chapter 26. Vayavo avdei Yitzchak vayagidu lo al adat be'er asher chavru. And the servants of Yitzchak came to tell him about the well that they had dug. Vayikru oto Shiv'ah, al kain shem ha'ir Be'er Sheva. And they called it Shiva. Therefore, the name of the city is Be'er Sheva. We've ascended a towering structure in the middle of the Tel, which affords us a beautiful view of our surroundings. From this standpoint, we could see the riverbed of the Be'er Sheva River. There is a wide valley just north of us. To the northeast are the mountains of Hebron. A generous amount of rainwater falls on these mountains. This rainwater drains off these mountains, forming the Hebron River, which is a tributary of the Be'er Sheva River at right around here. At times, there is so much of a runoff that it causes flooding. When there is too much water, the water will seep into the ground, filling the underground water supply known as an aquifer. The aquifer is very deep here, and that is why the Avot were able to dig deep down and discover water, as there is a great deal of underground water here. In fact, there was so much water here that during the Roman period they had a bathhouse and 2 pools. We're descending into the main water system of Tel Sheva. There is a drainage channel which brings the floodwater surplus from the Hebron River into this deep reservoir. The reservoir is below the valley, so there is a shaft which is 17 meters deep that leads to the underground water system. This system ran under the city. It is from the 9th century BCE and it was renewed in the 8th century. Can you imagine putting such a system like this together in ancient times? It is a long way down. The end of the staircase leads to the entrance of the cistern. The rock in this region is soft chalk, which makes it easier to chisel into it. Layer after layer of plaster was placed over the walls to preserve the water. This cistern could hold 700 cubic meters, and it was divided into several sections. Today we can walk from one section to the next. And finally, the exit. There are many interesting sights in Tel Sheva, but one cannot talk about this place without mentioning the Mizbeach, the altar. This is a 4-horned altar. The one here is a replica, with the original being in the Israel Museum. Like the altar in the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, this was made from unhewn stone. It is believed that this was used for cultic worship during the time of the first Bayit Rishon, in the 8th century BCE. It was discovered by archaeologists in second use in the storehouses that were excavated here. The altar was hidden in what is known today as a basement house, where a lower level was discovered. Once Chizkiyahu was king and forbade any altars outside Yerushalayim, this was probably dismantled. The story of the well doesn't end in ancient times. During World War I, the British fought their last cavalry battle here against the Turks in 1917. After 2 failed attempts to take Gaza, the British changed tactics and decided to attack here. They were assisted by the Australian and New Zealand horsemen known as the Anzac, who desperately needed to get through to Be'er Sheva to secure the wells and water their horses. So since ancient times until the present, water has been available here, even though we are in a desert. The wells have played a very important role in the establishment of civilization here throughout time.